Welcome to Sacred Magic. Violet is on a quest to bring sacredness back into our everyday experiences. Anyone can have an extraordinary life when they are able to tap into their sacred magic within. Violet and her guests will be sharing their divine passions, inspirations, and stories of connecting with their sacred magic. We are so happy you have joined us today. Let's get started with your host, the magical creator of Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, Vialet Rayne.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sacred Magic Podcast. I'm your host, Vialet Rayne, and today my guest is Tania. She's an emotional intelligence mindset coach, soulful creator of the first ever Ukrainian Tarot Deck, and it's called The Flower of the Magic Fern. She moved to Canada in 2014 with her two beautiful daughters, and her motto is dreams come true. So we're going to find out a lot more about that as we talk to her. She offers professional, vibrant, rising emotional intelligence training to corporate teams and Soulful Rising strategic sessions to individuals seeking soul level support. I'm so excited to talk to her today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
I love this. So I always love to start out with asking the guests, how did your spiritual journey begin? Like, how did you come from where you were to where you are today? And you know, what would you like to share with us about that?
Well, I think the spiritual journey, what I do remember is I was less than 5 years, and I would tell my father, like, hey, I see fairies. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, and I started to describe, well, it's like a fairy dust, and it's just like gnomes and this and that. And then he's like, and then he pulled me, and he's like, Tanya, and this is back in Ukraine, 30 plus years ago, post-Soviet country, right? He pulled me to the room, and he's like, my dear daughter, love you. Please don't say this to anyone because they will put you in a hospital for crazy people. And that's really and to his benefit, like, he sat with me and he's like, show it to me. So, I turn off the lights and like, don't you see? And he's like, where am I looking? I'm like, well, like, and I was like explaining what I see, because usually it comes as, like, it's the energy, right? And it's different. It has a different, like, sometimes it's shinier, sometimes it's the color, sometimes it's the density. And as a kid, a 5-year-old, you don't really can explain much through the physics and energetics, perspective. You say, hey, this is like a fairy, this and that. And I do remember he's like, please don't say it ever to anyone again if you want to have a decent life. And I feel like that was just, like, something was like, okay, this is like forbidden, like we don't do this, right? And then as cheesy and as like classic as it is, 2.5 years ago, I had a spine surgery, and it literally put me down to the bed. Okay, Tanya, you gotta stop and listen. And I think that's where it was like, okay, like, what do I want? Like, where my heart is calling? And then it, like, slowly, it started like unlocking and like revealing itself. And then it was like, whew, like everything that, I didn't do for the last 30 plus years. It's like, here you go. So I think that's how kind of it happened. And also, and then I went to do my shamanic training with Shamanic Institute of Vancouver, and then year 2 and year 3, and then I don't know, it just all blended beautifully together.
I love that. So many people, I feel like, are opening up, awakening, discovering, exploring. I think that's happening to a lot of people. And just like your experiences, people around them are like, please don't tell anyone that, because they're going to lock you away. They're going to think that you're not all here. Right. And so I think our natural reaction is I must hide it. So I love being able to share with listeners that they're not alone, that there are others out there that see all these things. So in my center, we have fairy doors throughout the center, and they live at my center, and people all the time are like, oh, those are cute little doors. And I'm like, they belong to the fairies. Oh, fairies. And I'm like, no, they're real. We see them. And they're like, no, what do they look like? And like you, it's hard to explain. Sometimes it's just flashes of light. Sometimes it's colors. I can just feel their personalities, and I can really see them move across the room. And we have a course at our center called Fairy Reiki. And
Oh,
so some of the students in our last class that we offered Fairy Reiki, one of the young women in the class was like, yeah, fairies, yeah. And we're like, no, they're really real. They really do exist. And she went home that evening and was sitting in front of her flower garden and started taking pictures of the flowers. And when you blew up the pictures, you could see the fairies in the photo, which was
that's so
really
great.
cool. And so then she came back and she goes, okay, I believe now, right? I believe. But a lot of people think that they don't exist, and they really do if you're open to believe that they exist.
Yeah, and it's like, it's like it really depends. Like when you're ready, they will reveal itself. And also from our childhood, the fairy, oh, that's from the cartoon or for the, the fairy tale. And if we actually say, okay, but what is the fairies? Oh, that's an energetic like being here to help us, then you actually take it more serious. I think just because from the childhood we thought, oh, that's just a cartoon, episode, and so I was like, oh, it's not doesn't exist, but it does exist. So yeah, and I love it. I feel like, like in my head, like it's like, oh, the fairies like, okay, we're gonna reveal itself, so this lady can actually, like trust this, and it was just beautiful. I love when we see something on the pictures; it's just so fascinating.
It is. And all these mythical beings exist, dragons and elves, and all of those are around us. They just don't show themselves to us until, they feel like they can trust us and they can believe in that. And it's not like you see them like we physically see each other. It's a whole different energy because they're in a different dimensional plane with us. And so you also, we probably see stuff all the time and we just discard it.
Yeah.
That wasn't real. That shadow that moved across the room really wasn't anything, or that light that flickered over in the corner, there's a reason for that. Well, maybe not, right?
Yeah.
You got to be open to some of that. So I
Yeah.
love when people are open. So talk to us a little bit about your creation of a deck. What encouraged you to create a deck and be a creator?
Well, this is creation of the heart. So, my family moved to Canada 10.5 years ago, and I was in property management in corporate work for 9 years. And again, like, till the surgery came in, that was what I was doing. And then, what came to me is, and it was as, as magical and as weird as possible. So I am clairvoyant. So I either see or I know, like deep in my heart, I just like, hey, this is what's happening. Don't ask me why. This is what it is, right? But I never would hear anything, right? So because all of our senses, right? Like clairs, all of the clairs. And then I drop off my kid to gymnastic, and in my car I'm driving back, and it's like, oh, you will launch first ever Ukrainian Tarot Deck. And I was like, oh my God, like this is nuts. I'm going crazy. That's official now. And then I was like, no, like it's not even my channel. Like, what is happening here? And I checked out the car. I'm like, no. And then it was like, it was very, and I did had my conversation with spirit because, like, who doesn't like to argue with spirit, right? I was like, no, English is not my first language. I'm not an artist. I have another things to do. Like, what are you talking about? And it was very, and then, the moment I'm like, I'm not an artist, the name of the artist dropped in. I'm like, oh shoot, yeah, she would be really great. And I'm like, but I'm not like English is not my first language. I'm not a writer. And I was like, you will be like guided and supported. Like this is happening. And what I feel about I don't even want to call it a product. That's a creation. Is that it was meant to come to the earth, and I was offered like, hey, do you want to become a mom to this? And I was like, okay. And it just, I was a channel and a mom to give it birth, if you will. And this is now belongs to the earth, and this is now to serve humanity. So it wasn't like something, I was sitting, oh, what I do, maybe this, maybe that, and people go to like, what's my niche, what my target audience? No, it was completely the other way around. So I think that's how it came. And then I didn't have a choice to say no. Like you don't really argue with spirits, right? It was like very clear. This is what you're doing. And the funniest story, so I'm still driving and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. So I'm like, I'm gonna call the artist. She will think I'm crazy. She will say no. I'll tell you no, and we're good, right? And I call her, And she didn't answer. And I'm like, this is great. Usually people say no easily, like on messages, right? So, and I left, but I left her a message though. And it's so funny because she never knew that I'm in tarot. So I am a reader. Since I was a kid, I would like pull cards for people, and my grandma was like, "What are you doing? This is not like the church is like against this." So I would hide somewhere. So it was always my like little secret. And then so I called this lady. She's amazing. I left her voice memo saying, "Hey, this will sound weird, and this is the crazy idea I have. Would you be open and willing, to work on this?" And you know how it works? Sometimes we have the download, and if we don't really act on it, if we don't make a step, then it's like erased from the memory. So next day she called me back and she's like, "Oh, you left me a message." I'm like, "Right, I did." So the moment I called her, it's like, I put the ball, like I sent them energy and it was like out of my field. And the next day she calls me. She's like, "I have no idea what you're talking about. This sounds crazy. And this is a 100% yes in my heart." And I'm like, okay. Like, okay, okay. So that's, I guess that's the inception. This is the gist of it.
I love
Minus
that.
minus the crying in the car and thinking I was nuts.
So share with us a few of your favorite cards in the deck. Tell us what, yeah, you got to show us.
Favorite. Well, so first of all, like, that's just, I have to showcase it because that's just, like each mom has just like, so the cards here, what I really, really like is that when I like the ribbons and everything, so when you pull it, it's actually like, oh, it shines, right? But when we talk about the favorite one, like, but honestly, like they are all my babies. Like I can't, like the all of my favorites. I can pull the card, so let's see what the card is saying, which card
Okay.
wants to be pulled, right? But they're all my favorite. They have different energies. And so this is the classic tarot deck, right? So it does have major arcana, minor arcana, four suits, right? And it is represented through the spiritual heritage of my own ancestry. And I had this and it's interesting because the moment the cards, were officially here in Canada, the actually now cards are in States, in Australia, in New Zealand, and even in Europe. And then some people actually message me back saying like, "I disagree with this card," and I'm like, "Let's talk." So the funny thing is, and I don't know, like I would love to hear your idea about this. The moon in Ukrainian tradition, the moon is the male. How about that? Hey, and people were thrown. People like, "What do you mean the moon?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's what it is." Or for example, we have this card, the devil. And in Ukraine, we don't fear devil. We don't. We fear the witch because she is powerful and she has this like feminine. So we had lots of like different like really cool um conversation with couple people that were thrown off. They were thrown off. Usually people really like the death because she's not scary or she's not any, she doesn't have this energy of, oh, I'm scared or the fear. And it's interesting because in the booklet I do teach and I put that death is the teacher. It's like why do we have fear of death? We all know that we're gonna die. Like what is here to be afraid of? This is the teacher to actually tell us that, hey, your time is limited and it wise, right? So it's not about the fear. It's actually people get very upset because they sometimes waste their lives and then at the end they like, "Oh, I don't want to die." Well, you knew this was coming. So I don't know. That's just me. I really like Emperor. He holds so much the masculine energy and that's like grounded and he's the god of the all of the gods. So oh my goodness, I love High Priestess because she's pure light. And I can keep talking and talking. I don't know if you wouldn't want me, how much you want me to talk about the cards. I love the legend about High Priestess, and I know maybe Zoom doesn't make it justice. So there's this beautiful legend about the High Priestess. She was the wife, she's a goddess. She's a goddess, and then yet, she cooks at home and she takes care of the house, right? And then her husband is like powerful, super strong, the warrior, and he was fighting the darkness day and night and all of the time and that dragons and all of that. And at some point she was like done with this. What I really love about it is that like when she was like kind of done in her heart, all she did, she stepped out of the house, and just because she's pure light, the darkness disappeared. period. And for me, this is like on so many layers. This is the teaching. First of all, how we as women can do things differently. It's just our presence. We don't have to fight. We don't have to rush. We don't have to go to the war. Our presence, that's what makes a difference. Then on a different level, it's like, how do you fight darkness? When you be light, and then the darkness will disappear. Like, how do you fight darkness in the room? You don't go and fight it, right, with the swords. You turn on the light. That's it. So that's also like, each card has its own legend or story or ceremony behind it, and that's what makes this whole deck is so powerful, and also like stand out, because it's different, right? It's a classic tarot deck, yet it's represented through this spiritual heritage and my own ancestry and my own teachings from my childhood.
I love that. I love that. What a beautiful, beautiful representation of the deck. So I'm excited. I'll have to get one. I think that's really cool.
I'm gonna send you the link.
All right. I want to see the link. I think it's really awesome. So talk to us a little bit about some of the things that you offer to people that would like to connect with you.
Well, so, and again, my background, right? So 10 years in corporate, just in Canada, and then I own business in Ukraine. My thing is that I have very grounded masculine structure energy, and yet there is this divine feminine flowy magical, and combined. I think what usually my clients would say that the most benefit they have is working with me is that they have a result. So just because, I've been doing this for over 2 decades now, I call it soulful coaching, because number of tools that I have, people come in and we're like, okay, like, what are we working right now? And usually it's interesting. The man comes when they want a promotion at work, or change the work, or bring more money. And the women come when it's a decision in regards of relationships and how to navigate relationship if they already exist, but they go through different stages. And so I do have 3 months coaching where we take one aspect of life and we actually tackle that one. And as much as loving and kind I am very honest. And I think that's what really, especially Canadian clients, they're like, because, super gentle. And I'm like, yes, I love you. I love you enough to care about you, to tell you the truth. It's not that he or she did something to you. It's how did you create this life, and where's your accountability in this creation? Because this is the first step. The moment people understand that they're not victims, it's not the government, it's not the religion, it's not the employee here, it's not the partner, it's actually them who created this in their life, then that's the most powerful moment. Because the moment they realize, oh, I created this, which means, oh, I can create something different. That's it. It's just a shift in consciousness. And I feel like my gift is actually to gently, softly, without sugarcoating, actually to bring people to this point, and then it just to help and guide where they want to go.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I love your deck. I love what you're doing. I love that you've taken the time today to talk to us and share that. I will put the link of your deck in the description. So if people are looking to purchase the deck or would like to find out more, they can. We'll also add her website into this video so that you can connect with her on many different levels. Please feel free to reach out and connect. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today and be so on this show. It's been awesome. I love your cards. What a beautiful artist that was selected. Wow. Such an amazing.
It was sent.
I love that. I love when artists are sent. It's a beautiful creation. And you were the navigator. Even though it's given to us, it still takes work for us to navigate and put all those pieces together to really get to the end game of having the deck. So congratulations on all of that. I look forward to seeing what's next. What do you do next for the world? What gifts do you bring in next? So I always find creators find other ways, and they just continue to create and be given information. So it'll be interesting to see what might pop up next.
I'm excited. There are a couple of things. It's like kind of like the new energy is coming. And so it does, it's like, you know, labor and actually giving birth to a baby. It takes, you know, it takes that 9 months to prepare, and then it's labor to give it a birth. So I do want to be selective with the energy. And yes, it's interesting that you picked up on that one, because there are 2 ideas that's currently in works, and I'm like, oh my God, like, do I do this? Oh my God, because it's gonna be like, you know, how when there's something new coming in. Yes. So yes, I'm excited too. And I think it's going to be 2024.
All right. Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see what that is. Thank you everyone for taking the time to watch the show today. I hope you'll subscribe and follow us on all of your channels. And we hope to see you really soon on one of our platforms. So have an amazing, magical week. And thank you for sharing your time with us today.